Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. This is a new feature that includes a couple of different add-ons that new projects that we included for this very specific feature. And the idea behind Invoice Contact Support is to give you better granularity down at the invoice level for working with your end customers. So if you've got some customers that have various contacts that you want to be able to provide them updated data associated with invoice level information, you now have the capabilities of providing them a customer portal link along with a statement. We call it our Invoice Contact Open Invoice Report that lists out all of the invoices associated with a very specific contact. Lindsay did a great job on our monthly newsletter that Amanda sent out to everybody. She also provided this link on our Anytime Collect website just to kind of explain, and I also have a PowerPoint on what this will do for you. I think this is great functionality, again, that anyone can use, whether you have invoice contacts coming in from your ERP system or they're just one-offs that you want to be able to provide specific information to customers at the invoice level. So again, this is the ability to do some automation around our Anytime Collect workflow to provide the customer portal link at the invoice level, along with attaching a statement that lists out the invoices associated with the contact. The ERP systems that do not have this ability, we do have the option of overriding or adding the contact at the invoice level. So some ERP systems do not have the invoice contacts coming in. So we do support a way of overriding that invoice contact so everybody has the capabilities to get value out of this. Lizzie did do a nice little summary for me on who can get value out of this Invoice Contact Support. And just like I talked about, it's giving you an invoice level customer portal link, again at the invoice level. If you have national accounts, parent-child relationships where you have a national account that is paying the bill for everybody, but you want to provide the sold to customers specific statements or links so you can restrict the data to just their information. You have that ability now as well. So very similar to national accounts, you have the bill to sold to. We do have some customers that are construction companies, and they have one customer, but that's very job specific, and they want to be able to provide links and updated detail information at the job level. Same thing for legal accounts. So if you've got a customer that has various legal cases and you want to provide a restricted access to their information, whether it's the customer portal link or with a PDF statement attached, you can get to that information as well. I'm going to flip over to my PowerPoint. It goes into a bit more detail on what's included with this new functionality because there are a couple of new features. It's not just one feature that you turn on for Invoice Contact Support. This is available to everybody right now. And as a team, we're more than happy to work with you to implement this or review how you've got your automation set up if you're interested in doing this Invoice Contact Support. So one of the things that we added for the functionality is the ability to override or add contacts at the invoice level. Not all ERP systems provide you that capability. I found maybe half of the ERP systems give you that capability. We have added additional functionality to do an override at the invoice level. So even if that invoice contact comes in and it may be incorrect, you can do an override and apply that correct invoice contact, giving you additional capabilities with the customer portal link and the automated emails. The invoice report, we developed a new invoice contact report. It basically is our open invoice report. So it contains all of the transactions or invoices associated with a specific invoice contact. So that was also included in this as a new item for this functionality. And then along with that, we have this automated email. So when the email goes out, it's basically using an invoice contact email template. It can only be done through automation. So It will auto-generate emails associated with each individual invoice contact using one step in the credit class processing. This automation, again, provides a PDF statement attached for the invoice contact and also the self-serve and the customer portal. And again, just to review the customers that can get value out of this, and again, if this is a one-off, I've worked with some customers that they just had maybe one customer that they need to use this new functionality for, or if it's your entire system that you need to set up. Anyone that needs to provide invoice level portal links, restricting at the transactional level, national accounts, bill to, sold to, the construction, legal, or any ERP systems that have that capabilities. If you do not have that capabilities, whether we work with engineering to get that information in for you, or we can work with you on a one-off doing the override on the invoice contact. So I have my test set up internally on my training account, which those of you that have been on these calls with me before, you're probably very familiar with my Hart Industries training account. And I've got two examples set up, one that I did not have set with the invoice contact and one that's completely set up. They're both the same customer that you see here, this ABF. And so I'm going to pull up the before and after so you can get an idea without me going through the entire setup. So my before customer, if I'm looking at the customer's account detail, you're going to see multiple open invoices for this customer. Right now, there isn't anything specific as far as an invoice contact. You can see that invoice contact information by either clicking on the invoice detail window. You'll see the invoice contact if there's an override within this window. If it pops up here for me, right here, this override, you can see there's nothing overridden here. If you wanted to see the actual details on that invoice, after selecting the customer, you would go to Inquiries by Account Invoices. I set up a specific invoice contact view here where I pulled over that invoice contact field. So this invoice contact support is working currently only with our invoice contact 1 field. So those of you that are familiar with invoice contacts inside Anytime Collect, which it is fairly new, we have an invoice contact 1 and an invoice contact 2. So this functionality is represented only with that invoice contact, that primary one, which is that first field here. So that's what you're seeing here. So this customer, you can see I have one set up here, but otherwise there's no invoice contact. So if I were to send an automated email to this customer, it would be based around the contact support that we have set up in the system, whether it's the primary contact or it's the include all email contacts. My first tab here for this other customer that I have set up has the invoice contacts set up, and I'm going to go to Inquiries by Account Contacts. Excuse me, let me go back to Inquiries by Account Invoices. And if I select my Invoice Contact tab here, you're going to see I have overridden all of my invoice contact names to provide that invoice contact support here. And again, I have a total of 17 invoices, and you can see each invoice is associated with a different invoice contact. And when I send out this auto email, you're going to see what this does. But if you're doing an invoice contact override, you click on the invoice details window. You have to have the contact existing on the customer's account, and then you can do a drop down and select which one you want to associate with that transaction. So again, if you're trying to add a contact before you set this up, in the drop down at the top, you go to the Contacts tab. You can add or edit the existing contacts here, and you can see I have a primary contact set up for the customer. So my example that I have, I'm going to send an email to this primary contact. It's going to include everything for the customer's open transaction, along with the customer portal link that also includes all transactions. And then I have these 3 other invoice contacts that are all associated with their own invoice down below that you see here. Now, I already generated this. I didn't want to hold up our our webinar waiting for this to generate. So I'm going to go to my account details so you can see exactly what this generated. And I'm also going to show you how I have this credit class set up. So under Admin Master File Credit Class, it's basically 2 steps. The first step is for the primary contact email that's going out. So customer level information, you're going to see this primary contact email that's here. I actually wanted to tag all the invoices so they could see that. So I did do an invoice level step on this, tagging the invoices, but the email template is associated with the primary contact only. Now the invoice contact step that I have set up, and again, you can see there's only 2 steps. The main difference is I'm using an email template that's looking for the invoice contact. I also have the invoice contact report associated with this as well. So you have to use an invoice contact email template along with the open invoice contact report for this to work. And again, this is invoice level information. So for this, you have to do an invoice level view. I'm also tagging the invoice PDFs associated with this so you can see the full picture. So when I processed those 2 steps on this credit class, what generated were actually 4 activities. And you're going to see, so there were 2 steps that it created 4 activities. One activity was for the primary contact. And if I look at this email that was sent to the primary contact, I'm going to have all the PDFs associated with this customer's account attached. So everything on this customer's account, there should be 17 PDFs. This was just for my example here. It's going to that primary contact that I had set up on the customer's account here. So you're going to see that primary contact here. And then the link for this customer level is going to show that customer information for everything, because again, it's a customer level portal link. This is the primary contact. We want that primary contact to see everything. So when you're looking at that customer portal link, it's not going to be restricted. You're basically giving them access to all 17 invoices that you see here. Now that second step that I have for the invoice contact, it's 1 step, but it created 3 different activities based on those invoice contacts that are set up. So you're going to see all 3 activities. They're going to look identical except for the invoice that's tagged on the activity and the email that was sent. So if I look at this first one, you're going to see that you're going to have a limited number of PDFs associated with this email that are attached. And it never fails to just spin on me when I'm looking at this information when we're on the webinar. I'm just going to refresh this here just so we can try to move this along. And of course, as soon as I do, it pops up. But this is my invoice contact for Drake. If everybody's familiar with Drake, he's one of our support analysts. So I used him as one of my invoice contacts for this example that I have here. Let me just reload this account detail. Everybody just bear with me. So I started with the one down at the bottom, make sure I'm on the right, and I'm on my wrong company here. I'm looking at my company ID up here. I had the wrong, incorrect customer selected. Okay, so there's my primary contact, invoice level auto email that goes out. This is the one for Drake for the invoice contact. You're going to see Drake is my invoice contact associated with these invoices. If I copy that link and log in as that invoice contact, again, these are all the invoices associated with Drake's email address, Drake's user. So you're going to see instead of 17 invoices, there are only 5 associated with that contact information. We've also restricted the menu options. The only information they're going to be able to see are the invoices associated with their contact. They can't see any other information in the portal. So that's the other restriction. So again, The key to it is you have to use our Invoice Contact report along with an Invoice Contact email template, and it will automatically create the activities associated with each one of those contacts. If I look at one of these other ones, I've got Christina as one of my other invoice contacts, and Zach is my third. Each one of these are going to have their own customer portal link. They're going to have their PDFs attached that are associated with their contact. And again, they're only going to see the information that you're allowing them to see by using that Invoice Contact auto email that's going out. So anyone that, and again, anyone that has the need for this, whether you have invoice contacts coming in automatically from your ERP system, or we need to work with you on updating your invoice contacts. We're currently working with another customer that we're manually adding a couple of invoice contacts so they can review this functionality. But it's basically a two-step credit class, and it'll automatically create the activities associated with each one of those individual invoice contacts automatically. So I think it's a great tool that everybody that could possibly use can definitely have access to. So the key to this is just reach out to one of us, either in support or your consultant that you're working on, and we'd be more than happy to work with you on setting this up. And we'll also have this video out here saved so you can also review this with your team, for those of you that wanted to review this internally. And I'm going to open this up for questions. I did go through it fairly quickly, but there are some setup options that I did not review. I did not show you the email template, which I'm just going to flip over and show you real quick. And I'm opening up this for questions now. This is a webinar, so everybody is on mute. So if you have questions, I am going to have you type it into the chat box for questions. But as far as the email template, you can see I have the email template ID associated, so I could tell very quickly and easily which one is which. This is my @custprimary and @invoicecontact. So @invoicecontact must be used. And then that report also has to be the open invoice report for the contact. And I think we have some questions. I'm not sure. Amanda is going to have to help me out. Maybe.
Yeah, does anyone have any questions? You can just put them in that chat box.
So this is one of the first steps that we wanted to get this functionality out there. I know a lot of you have been asking about national account support. Very similar to this invoice contact, we could look at doing national accounts in a similar manner. Anyone that has national accounts set up in your ERP system, and we're seeing that, you have basically a bill to sold to. And I think it's something that we could turn into a national account support as well, providing a link for those children accounts along with the national account support. So I think that this can also carry over in that respect. So anyone that has that functionality or that need for national accounts, for different invoice level information to restrict that data for your end customers, or even whether it's an internal source that needs to see that information, you can use this invoice contact feature that's out here now. If nobody has any questions on the webinar topic, we can open this up for questions in general. So go ahead and feel free to add questions to the chat. I'll read those out loud, and we've got basically everybody in the room today. So along with myself, we have our consulting team, we've got sales people here as well. So any general questions, any issues that you want to ask, please go ahead and type that into the chat now. I'm more than happy to address any questions you have. For our user group next week, we are working on a new release. The slated date for our live publish is next Friday, June 21st. And right now, as of today, we actually look like we're on time for a change. I'm hoping we're not going to be delayed at all. There is going to be a new feature that we're going to be reviewing in the user group next week. I definitely encourage everybody to get on the user group next week if you want a preliminary view of that new feature. I also try to open it up for feedback for those of you that are on the user group. If you'd like changes or suggestions before we actually publish this new feature, it's going to be, again, next Wednesday, 1 p.m. We're going to be talking about our new communication assistant and all the new things that we can do in the system for automation outside of just auto email. There's going to be a lot coming out. So if you're interested in getting a preview on that feature before we actually release that live on Friday, definitely get involved in our user group next week. Anything you want to add?
All right, no one has, oh.
So I'm going to read this question out loud. To be clear, this invoice contact feature must be turned on, correct? Otherwise, the auto emails work as they did before. So thank you for the question. This is actually not a feature to turn on. So to get this new functionality to work, the idea behind it is using an email template that uses the invoice contact as the, let me just go back, I've got to minimize everything. So the email template has to be associated with @invoice contact as far as who that email is going to. If that email template is used there, you also want to use our new portal link, which again, I appreciate the question so I could clarify this. There is a new link called Customer Statement by Contact List. So you have to be using @invoice contact on your email template. You do have to use this Customer Statement by Contact link to restrict the data at the invoice contact level. And if you're providing an attached PDF statement that you want to provide to your invoice contact, you also need to use that report. And let me just go to the reports here. Oh, my team, help me out if you see it before I do.
Keep going. Might be on the last page.
It probably is. Here it is here. So if you're providing a PDF report, such as a statement that you also want to send via email, you do have to use this open invoice by contact letter in order for this functionality to work, so to speak. So again, it's not turn it on. It's basically all based around setup for the automation. If you want to work, if you want to get that set up and working. Does that answer your question, Louise? Yeah, let me know if you're interested in even testing this feature out. Like I said, I am working with a couple of customers to review this testing so they understand how that works and how they can build that into their current automation. So Louise, if you're interested in, doing a test example for that, the way we've been rolling this out is having the email go to an internal email address so you can review it before you decide to turn it on and send it to your end customers. So let me know. We can definitely work with you on that if you're interested in this. Thanks, Louise. Any other questions on this feature, issues that you may be having, suggestions? And again, I'm going to try to do an email blast for the user group next week. I definitely like some of our primary users to get on the call to review our new feature that we're going to be rolling out. Yeah, there's a question out here. Andy, I'm just going to read your question out loud. I missed the first 5 minutes of the webinar. Is there a way to get a copy of the recorded webinar? Yeah, absolutely. This will be converted, and for any of you that want to get a recording of this webinar or any past webinar, you're going to go to the support menu. And under the support menu, you've got a section called videos. When you click on the videos, there's a section on free training. So all the free training is listed in descending order. Anything that we're promoting, it'll be up at the top. But as soon as that's available, that will be on the video, but we can also send you those links once we have that converted, Andy. So anyone interested in getting the link quicker than having that on our knowledge base, shoot Amanda an email, and we'll get that link sent over to you. Thanks for the question, Andy. Any other questions? Feedback too, if you guys think that there's something that we can do differently for this feature or anything else, we've got time. I don't want to keep you on the call. So I appreciate you guys all being on the call to talk about this new feature, learn about our product. And again, get involved in our user group. We're always improving and adding things. This whole feature came from discussions with sales, feedback from our users. And so we put this in place to try to help you guys out. So please get involved, and we appreciate you guys being on the call today. We'll let you guys go.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.